Who would you put in the same category of evil as Hitler? Pol Pot. I was gonna say this guy. Absolute lunatic with a ton of power. Cambodia still has issues because of him. Surgeon General Shiri, director of Unit 731, the unit of the Japanese Imperial Army that orchestrated Japanese incomprehensibly cruel human experimentation and biological weapons testing during World War II. They vivisected babies, pregnant women, and just civilians in general, alive with no anesthesia, and out of sheer sadistic curiosity. They locked people in massive freezers to see how long frostbite took to kill. Placed live kidnapped civilians on round grenades to see how the damage changed with distance. Dropped bubonic plague bombs on Villargurso vertical bar. Despite some scientific findings, it was a shit they did for no reason other than sadistic pleasure or curiosity. That makes them almost worse than the Nazis. Reinhard Heydrich, also known as the Butcher of Prague. Thank fuck he was assassinated. He was nicknamed Arev, young evil god of Dörto, and Hitler called him Arev, man with the iron heart. Joseph Mengele, slayer based at a angel of Dörto, on his butchery in the name of Hitler. I read a book about Mossad capturing Eichmann in Argentina, and as they were tracking him down, they came across a hotel where, very likely according to all intel they had, Mengele was accommodated just days prior. I think they decided to not pursue those leads due to limited resources and time, as they did not want to risk their primary target to run away. It's just mind-blowing to me how close they probably were. King Leopold II of Belgium. He needs to be more well known. I read a book in college on Belgium's evils in the Congo, called King Leopold's Ghost, and it is still one of the best books I have ever read. Pol Pot killed 1/4 of the population. Absolute madness that they had a seat at the UN whilst he was in power. That Khmer Rouge puts most other genocidal regimes to shame. They are just from a small country most people haven't heard of, so people don't realize just how absolutely incredibly awful they were. Give them a country the size of Nazi Germany, Stalin's USSR, Mao's China, and I don't think we'd have much of a discussion about who's the worst. Heinrich Himmler. I disagree. I think he deserves a higher category of evil than Hitler. Idi Amin Akara Black Hitler was pretty brutal. There is a story from the British journalist Jon Snow, who once was on a plane with his news crew, and Idi Amin was alone with them. This was during Amin's reign of terror. Amin had fallen asleep with his coat open, and visible from inside his coat was a pistol. Snow says that he considered taking the revolver, pulling the trigger, and killing the dictator. Obviously, we now know that Snow did not do it. He says he was worried that A, Amin was a large man, and if he woke up, he'd kill Snow, and B, that if the bullet passed through Amin, the fuselage might be punctured and depressurize. Snow says to this day his greatest regret in life is that he did not kill Idi Amin as he slept. I cannot imagine the gravity of that situation. Andrew Wakefield. Here's the guy who started the Alara vaccine's cause autismo thing. The investigative reporter who uncovered Wakefield's BS has his documentary on YouTube here, and there is also a Bomberger's deep dive into the topic here. Basically, this man manipulated people's ignorance, fear, and love for their children in order to make money. He lied and cheated. He was completely discredited, but is still worshipped as a martyr by anti-vaxxers. He did monumental damage to people's trust in medicine and set autism acceptance backwards by leaps and bounds. He abused disabled children who could not properly communicate with invasive, traumatizing, extremely dangerous, and unnecessary procedures to get his false and biased editor. He did things to those kids that real doctors try to avoid doing to adults due to risk and stress. He did it for money. He did it for greed. He is still profiting off of his lies. He is still manipulating people. Manipulating parents who are terrified for their kids. He is absolutely despicable and wretched. When I first heard about what he did to those kids during his Red, Oscar de la Hoya, genocidal, torturer, child rapist, mass murderer, vertical bar, a guy so fucking evil even the other SS members thought he was too much. Honestly, I think there are many people who are more evil than Hitler was. I know that you cannot really put a measure on just how bad literally ordering the murder of millions of people is, and this will sound awful. But, given the opportunity, there are people who would do worse. By worse I mean they'd torture more, they'd kill more, and they'd be happy about it. Hitler is the epitome of evil, because he had the chance to live out his evil ideas. He had people around him who also believed in the same things, and were equally, if not more evil. I get what you're saying. He was not necessarily more evil than Arabatgayo, just more successful. Genghis Khan was the original Hitler with way more success. Yeah, cannot believe this is so far down. Did not he kill so many people that the earth cooled? Did not he rape so many women that a percentage of everyone alive now is his descendant? The CEO of Nestle recently said that water is not a human right. I would say that is a pretty evil mindset. Here is the full quote for those curious, courtesy of Snopes. Water is, of course, the most important raw material we have today in the world. It is a question of whether we should privatize the normal water supply for the population. And there are two different opinions on the matter. The one opinion, which I think is extreme, is represented by the NGOs, who bang on about declaring water a public right. That means that as a human being you should have a right to water. That is an extreme solution. The other view says that water is a foodstuff like any other, and like any other foodstuff it should have market value. Personally, I believe it is better to give a foodstuff a value, so that when we're all aware it has its price, and then that one should take specific measures for the part of the population that has no access to this water, and there are many different possibilities there. Now former Nestle CEO, 2005. Read into it what you will. Goebbels. Every single person involved in Unit 731. Edit. Only read about them if you've got a strong stomach or are okay with losing faith in humanity. Leopold II. Is this the asshole that would dismember and murder children who did not meet quotas on his fields? Caligula. Nero. Leopold II. Stalin. Pol Pot. With Caligula it is hard to really tell. So many stories written about him were so far-fetched that many historians believe it as the result of a smear campaign of sorts. Jimmy Savile, beloved UK talk show host, spent his whole life raising money for charity and a large portion of his career granting wishes for children. So far sounds like a nice guy, right? After his death, an investigation is launched into allegations of child abuse against him, police concluding that he was a prolific child molester. Savile is estimated to have sexually abused up to 500 people in his life, spanning from 1955 to 2009. The charity work. All a clever method of luring vulnerable people for Savile. Many of his victims were those within the charities, care homes and hospitals he worked for. Some even backstage on the shows he presented. According to Michael Scott, Toby is worse than Hitler. Why are you the way that you are? Also it is Toby. Who spells Toby as Toby? Idi Amin is up there. Middle schoolers. I think op meant humans. The lady who forgot to put my sweet and sour sauce in the bag with my nuggets. Have you ever had nuggets with no sauce? Paul Bernardo and Colaho Molga. The worst thing is Carla is out free as a bird. The prosecutor gave her an absolute sweetheart deal. I am surprised Sheila is still alive, honestly. Albert Fish. I heard he was a real jerk. I'm surprised I haven't seen Benito Mussolini on here yet. He was awful. He killed millions and subjected children to drinking canola oil so they would have diarrhea and vomit to death. Genghis Khan. I feel people are more upset about him being once enough time has passed. People stop view historical people as people. Stalin, Mao, Pol Pot, the list goes on. How has no one said Kim Jong-un? The whole Kim family though. Kim Jong-un is just keeping up the family business. It was his grandfather who started the whole damn thing. Henry Kissinger, die already you old war criminal. DuPont family. Poisoned the water of America for generations for profit. Can't think of many things more sinister than that. The more you read about them the more fucked up they get. The guys who ran Unit 731. Nobuyusuke Kishi. He was the Japanese governor of Manchuria during and before WW2, and oversaw slave labor and the comfort women system. Funny enough, we made him prime minister of Japan after the war and his grandson was Shinzo Abe. Anti-Pavlik, Croatian MF and Nazi collaborator, pretty sick fella. The Japanese conquest of the mainland around and before WWII. Augusto Pinochet Ugat. People like to meme him because of the haha funny helicopter rides thing, but that man was fucking evil. If we are talking strictly WW2, then maybe Shiro Ishii, leader of the Japanese Unit 731, and or Heinrich Himmler, the guy in charge of the SS. Jeffrey Epstein and his accomplice Maxwell,